Welcome back to Podcast Royal. How are you this week?
I am doing well. I've been making progress on my kitchen renovation. I know I was just telling you that I'm hoping it'll be all wrapped up in less than a month.
That's
So we had a
exciting.
pretty productive weekend getting some stuff done. And yeah, it's been a good week so far. I've been trying to be more active this week. I've been walking early every morning while the weather is not super, super hot here yet. So that's been
Mhm.
really nice. So I definitely recommend that to our listeners. Get up a little bit earlier, go for a walk. It's a great way to start the day.
Well, that's very aspirational, first of all. But there's like, I did that at one point, and there's like medical benefits of getting out in the sunlight within the first 10, I think the first 10 minutes of waking up.
Yeah.
There's true benefits. So actually, so I of course don't do that, but I'm hacking it, and there's like this blue light that you can get that. So I have this blue light that simulates sunlight, and it's on my vanity. So I like, try to like brush my teeth in front of the blue light. But you're right, like the only time that I could ever, unless I'm at the pool, get outside right now is like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, or like 8 o'clock at night. It's so hot. So this is my first summer in Florida, and I'm dying down here. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived in the South for 15 years, but this is a different kind of heat. It's so hot here.
Well, I've been walking around 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. And it's, mid 60s, low 70s here around there, but it's so nice. It's like quiet, and
Mhm.
I do not run. It is a leisurely stroll, but it's just to get me out of the house and get some steps
Are
in.
you
So
listening to podcasts or music or just the
I
quiet?
usually listen to a podcast. There's been a few times where I've just done a quiet walk, but I usually have a podcast in.
Nice, nice. I'm getting to the point, and we will get to the point, listeners, and get into our episode. But I'm getting to the now we're just friend talking. I'm getting to the point with podcasts where I'm like, I need to like not take on any more shows. Like it's almost becoming like overwhelming. But I'll never obviously cut Podcast Royal because that's the number one, and not just because I host it, but because I like it. So anyway, well, speaking of Podcast Royal, why don't we have an episode, shall we? Because we've got
Sure.
quite a lot to talk about. So before we get into it, for those who are into Bridgerton, part two, which I am kind of like, I mean, I watch it. I did watch part one of season three. I'm not an obsessive like Sarah Ferguson, who we'll talk about in a second, but part two of season three drops tomorrow, June 13th. So the royal family, interestingly, the Bridgerton is royal-esque. It's not like, the crown or anything. It's not that obvious, but definitely royal ties, like Regency royal ties. And so Queen Camilla, I know we'll be watching. She admitted at the Chelsea Flower Show that she binged the first part of season three. I know Sarah Ferguson will be watching. This is why I'm bringing this up. This past week, since our last episode, she even said she'd love to make a cameo or have
Mhm.
a role, like a recurring role on Bridgerton. She has said in the past that she is obsessed with this show. We know she likes historical fiction. She writes historical fiction, so she loves this show. Do you watch Bridgerton? I don't know if we've ever talked about that.
I have not gotten into Bridgerton. So I did actually attempt to watch the first episode, and for some reason I found it a little bit boring. I had a hard time getting into it. I think I've heard it gets better. I've also heard there's quite a bit of sex in the
There's a
show.
lot
So
of sex,
I'm
yes.
thinking it's maybe not family friendly or something that you want to watch with kids around, but I
No.
have not been able to get into it yet. I want to.
I just dropped the mic. Sorry if you listeners heard that. Not because we were talking about sex, but just it slipped out of my slipped out of my hand. Yes, there's a lot of sex. I would not watch it with children around. It's a good show. Like it's not my favorite show, but I mean it's definitely entertaining. And so I think this is the first time they've cut it a season in two like this, and it left off on, I won't spoil it, but it left off on a cliffhanger, so I'm obviously going to be tuning in. But anyway.
Well, speaking of shows on a cliffhanger, I am anxiously awaiting the next season of Emily in Paris, which I
Oh, I
think
love
comes out
that
in
show.
August. They
Mhm.
left on a major cliffhanger too.
Yeah,
So
they did.
I have really gotten into that show, and it's probably my like favorite current show that's on right now. I watch a few other like reruns from past shows, but that's probably my favorite current one.
Yeah, I really like Emily in Paris too. I didn't realize the new season was that soon, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's like every time I think, should I cancel Netflix? There's something else around the corner.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, anyway, we've got a lot to talk about on both sides of the coin, royal rundown and royals around the world. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, first up, I do want to share a little update about something we talked about last week. So I know you remember we were taking guesses on whether we would have a full balcony or a slim balcony at Trooping the Color. And I know, Rachel, we were both hopeful we would have a full balcony. So I have been hearing updates from several different news outlets reporting that we should expect maybe a not so crowded balcony this year.
Mm.
I mean, I know we'll still have to wait and see, but if that is true, I'm a little bit bummed we may not see the extended family. And I was thinking about this. I guess I could understand King Charles' perspective if he's thinking, I really want to push this idea of a slim down monarchy. It might feel inconsistent to have one year where we've got this big balcony full of everyone. But I also feel like we should be able to separate seeing family at the monarch's birthday from, being a true working royal. I feel like both can be true. Like, we should be able to slim down the monarchy, but still be able to see the extended family at big parties and
Hmm.
celebrations like we did at garden parties. So, I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know if we'll see the cousins or if we'll see Princess of Wales for that matter, but I am holding out hope that we might still have a full balcony. I don't know. What do you think? Any predictions?
My short order prediction, unfortunately, I wish this weren't true, but because I obviously hope that the Princess of Wales is there on Saturday. I said it last week. I think that that would be such a monumental moment, but I don't. I'm hearing that she's probably not going to be there. I know obviously it was all contingent on how she felt. I don't know how she feels, but I'm hearing that that's not going to happen. But that the kids, so George, Charlotte, and Louis, probably will be there with their dad, William. So that's kind of what I'm going into it expecting. Who knows what will happen? But talk like Beatrice, Eugenie, all of them were on the balcony with Queen Elizabeth, right? So why
Mhm.
can't they do that? Like I know that was their grandmother, not their uncle, but still, like they were never working royals then, but they were still there, right? And so I don't know why the same can't apply now. And look, 2024, I get what you're saying, and I get what everybody's saying about how you don't want to have this huge full balcony one year, and then 2025 you go back to like 10 people or whatever. But 2024 is an unprecedented year. I mean, it's a year nobody could have predicted. It's a weird year. It's a tough year. And I think I still maintain that a full balcony would just be a really strong sign of the strength of the monarchy. And I hope that even if Kate can't be there, which of course I understand, that the kids are there and that Gabriella Kingston's there and Beatrice usually just it's just a show of the strength of the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And, I do think if the Princess of Wales is not there, I guess, it sort of makes sense if you think about it. If she does want to make a public appearance at some point, maybe the king's birthday didn't feel like the right time to do
Well, and
that.
that's the other thing, yeah, is that I've heard that she doesn't want to overshadow him, which I also understand.
Which would happen for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah, she would be if Kate is there on the balcony, that's all anyone will talk about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's complicated as ever, but my short prediction is that she's not, which I hate again, but that she won't be there, but the kids will be. So, and I will be very happy to see the kids. I've missed seeing them with a little bit more regularity. We've barely seen any of them at all this year. So we have
Mhm.
had such a busy week. I feel like there was a major event that happened every day last week between D-Day and the Duke of Westminster's wedding, and then there was the Colonel's review. So we're going to get into all of it. But let's start with D-Day. So, listeners, before we talk about D-Day and the royal family's involvement in commemorating its 80th anniversary, which was June 6th, which was last Thursday, I want to make sure, like a mini history lesson here, that you remember the details of D-Day, because I truly feel like, as a student of history, that this is one of the most, if not the most important day in our world history. It was truly incredibly transformative for the future of this world. So I'm just gonna, for those that may have forgotten from history class in high school, I want to recap what D-Day is. So on June 6, 1944, the invasion of the beaches at Normandy in northern France by troops from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and other countries. Of course, this is during World War II. This marks one of the most important days in world history, like I just said, and historians often refer to D-Day as the beginning of the end of World War II. So at the time, France was occupied by the armies of Nazi Germany. And according to the History Channel, the amphibious assault, which was codenamed Operation Overlord, landed around 156,000 Allied soldiers on the beaches of Normandy by the end of the day. So D-Day was an Allied victory, but still there was mass casualty. Roughly 4,000 Allied troops were killed by German soldiers defending the beaches. So at the time, the D-Day invasion was the largest naval, air, and land operation in history. About 326,000 troops, more than 50,000 vehicles, and some 100,000 tons of equipment had landed. Just think about the scope of all of that, and take yourself back to 1944, right? When technology was obviously not what it is today. So by August 1944, 2 months later, all of northern France had been liberated. And in the spring of 1945, the Allies defeated the Germans, and World War II blessedly was over. So this 80th anniversary really matters because it's likely the last anniversary that we will still have any living veterans from that day here with us, as the greatest generation has all but left us. As it is, there's very few veterans that are still alive, because if you do the math, if you were 18 80 years ago, you're 98 now. I think that's right, that math is correct. So if anyone is living, it's very few, but there are still some veterans. The next time that we have an anniversary like this, there probably will be none. So it's very important, and I'm so happy to see that the royal family and world leaders commemorated it like they should. So before I go any further, I speak on behalf of both myself and Jessica in saying that we just really, like, it's so important to honor those who served on D-Day and in World War II and in any conflict, really. So, I mean, saying thank you from my small corner of the world seems very insufficient, but I offer it nonetheless on behalf of both of us. And I feel it's important to know our collective history. So thank you for obliging me there, because yes, we're going to talk about the royal involvement, but it's important to know why this matters. So let's back up to last Wednesday, June 5th. So King Charles, Queen Camilla, and Prince William joined veterans in Portsmouth, England for the UK's national commemorative event. William delivered a speech, gave a really moving reading from the diary of Captain Alistair Bannerman, who was a soldier who was a part of the D-Day landings. And William said in his speech, in part, I won't read the whole thing, but we will always remember those who served and those who waved them off, the mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters who watched their loved ones go into battle, unsure if they would ever return.
You know, you're talking about Prince William, and I saw a story about him this week, and I know you saw it too, but he did take some time to speak with some of the veterans. And one interaction that he had last week in particular made a lot of news headlines. So the veteran asked him if Kate was getting any better. And Prince William responded. He said, yes, she'd have loved to be here today. And then he made this connection between Kate and those with ties to Bletchley Park, which is it was like a secret World War II codebreaker spy location. And he said, and I'm going to quote him, I was reminding everyone her grandmother served at Bletchley Park, so she had quite a few in common with some of the ladies here who were at Bletchley. And then, of course, the veteran told him, he said he would love to see him in 5 years' time for the 85th anniversary event. And I just thought that interaction was really sweet between them. I think Prince William is so good at these events and having those conversations with people.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best at this. And I did see that. I get really emotional talking about the greatest generation and veterans, because my grandparents were in the greatest generation. I'm sure yours were too. Most of our grandparents, if you're roughly our age, were. And it's just, I'm so glad that they made the big deal of it that should be made of D-Day. And I also want to make a brief mention here that God bless Princess Anne, the hardest working woman in show business. I'm telling you, she undertook four. Yes, that is 4 engagements in Normandy on Wednesday alone with her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence. I could not let that slip under the radar because she is a boss. She is I if I can be 1/100th of Princess Anne someday, I will consider my life a success. But so not surprisingly, because it's very emotional. I mean, truly, like I can't overstate this. We owe those veterans really our freedom today.
Mhm.
The king and queen both appeared to become visibly emotional at these commemorative events, as I think anyone would. The king also spoke. He gave moving remarks. He urged the public to never forget those who served, and these are his words: their service and their sacrifice in replacing tyranny with freedom. So then the next day on June 6th, which was the actual 80th anniversary, the trio of the King, the Queen, and the Prince of Wales traveled to France, which was a trip especially meaningful to the King because it marks his first trip overseas since announcing his cancer diagnosis back in February. So they commemorated D Day's 80th anniversary at the British Normandy Memorial with the Ministry of Defense and the Royal British Legion, which the King is patron of. William then attended the international commemorative ceremony at Omaha Beach, where he joined. We mentioned this in a previous episode that there were going to be a lot of global royals there, but he
Mhm.
joined over 25 heads of state and veterans from around the world. And he was also joined by tons of royals from around the world, including King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, King Frederick of Denmark, Crown Prince Haakon of Norway, Prince Albert of Monaco, King Philippe and Queen Mathilde of Belgium, and Grand Duke Henri of Luxembourg. So that was quite a gathering of global royals there.
Yeah, it was. I love when our royal families join together for an event like that. And I know we also saw Bridget Macron, the First Lady of France, I
Oh,
believe.
yeah. Yes, I know
So,
where you're going here, I think. Yeah. Go
well, while
tell
we
us.
are speaking en français, it appears she might have committed a little faux pas at this anniversary event. So, okay, she and Camilla, they were laying flowers at the British Normandy Memorial, and Rachel, this video has been all over news outlets.
It
Like I've
really
seen
has, yeah.
as they backed away, Bridget reached out to grab Camilla's hand and she kind of did it a few times. She missed and then she grabbed again. And, Camilla kept her hand at her side the whole time. She didn't reciprocate. And so eventually, Bridget just kind of stepped away and didn't bother with it. But I feel like both of these women are taking a lot of criticism from this on both sides. So, on one hand, it's been reported that Bridget broke royal protocol by touching Camilla's hand like that. She wasn't supposed to do that. I mean, we know the royal website doesn't really have any official protocol laid out there when it comes to, greeting or interacting with members of the royal family, but there are maybe some traditional kind of unspoken rules that some of our heads of state, maybe should be aware of. But on
Hmm.
the other side, Camilla is facing criticism because people were saying that she was being uptight and snobby for not holding her hand. And I just have to imagine, these two women, they know each other very well. They've spent plenty of time with each other. They get along. So I feel like Bridget probably felt comfortable enough in the moment to do that. We know when they first arrived and got there, King Charles, kissed Bridget's hand when he greeted her. So, these families they're familiar with each other. They interact with each other a lot. So I think it was just kind of an awkward little moment where Camilla didn't realize that that may be what she was doing in the moment. And, it just ended up making kind of a weird video. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think one of them was in the wrong?
I don't think either of them was in the wrong. So I think probably Bridget Macron was overcome with emotion and
Hmm.
maybe just needed a support in that moment. I don't know. And so that's not wrong. I also don't think that this was so much of a royal protocol issue. I've thought about this a lot as I do. I overthink all things royal. And I think that it was not really so much a royal protocol issue as it probably was a germs issue. I think Camilla was really, trying to protect her husband, who still, lest we forget, is undergoing cancer treatment. So, I mean, I know that the king kissed her hand, as you said, but Camilla said herself this week that Charles is not minding the rules and is not doing what he's told. And so, I really perceived it. I don't think either woman is in the wrong. I think really Camilla was just trying to be probably especially cautious, considering that her beloved husband is 75 years old and still undergoing cancer treatment. So I don't
mean,
think either were in the wrong.
That's a good point. I think Camilla was wearing gloves, if I remember
Was
correctly.
she? Okay, that
Um,
wouldn't surprise me either.
I just kind of took it as, there's all eyes on you, cameras are rolling. They probably were just thinking about soaking in the moment. And Bridget, like you said, got a little overwhelmed with emotion, went to grab her hand. Camilla didn't realize that's what she was doing. And, it kind of happened quickly. I don't know,
It
but
probably played out a lot more awkward than it actually was.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think there was any snubbing or anything going on there.
No, 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 no,
I
no.
will say they both looked great in those white coats and heels. They were kind of twinning for a moment, and I was thinking, I don't think this is the first time we've seen them twin because I feel like I remember them wearing both navy blue dresses when we had the British state
Mm-hmm.
visit to France. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they coordinated that or, maybe they get on the phone and talk about what they're going to wear.
Maybe. And but I know Camilla also wore pink, and she wore pink. I remember when they were in France with the Macrons, was last
Hmm.
year, I guess, when that was. So yes, so moving, just so emotional, and just really glad to see that the royals paid homage as they should. So that was the 5th and 6th. So then we move into Friday, June 7th, and we've got the Duke of Westminster wedding, which we said we were going to talk about. So we teased it in a previous episode. And you know what? We're going to milk this because it might be some time until we have another royal wedding in the UK. And maybe if good old Peter Phillips gets married again, or, eventually Louise and James will get married, but it's going to be ostensibly some time. So instead of a royal wedding, let's invite ourselves to a British high society wedding, shall we?
Yes.
So Hugh Grosvenor is the 7th Duke of Westminster. He married Olivia Henson on Friday, June 7th at Chester Cathedral. William was an usher. So Hugh is a close friend, one of the few actually that remains close friends with both William and Harry. He's one of the few to still be close to both brothers since everything happened. I don't have to tell you listeners or Jessica what that is. So as we mentioned last episode, Hugh is the godfather to both George and Archie. So that's both William and Harry's eldest children. So Harry was not there. He was invited, it's understood, but he declined due to a quote unquote understanding with his friend Hugh. And that understanding is likely over, first of all, strained relations with William, and also because Harry probably didn't want to take attention away from the actual wedding and the bride and groom themselves, which I think is actually really, really cool and really respectable. So Eugenie was there, though I don't know if I was expecting her to be there, but she was there. We'll talk more about her outfit in a moment. So George was rumored to be a page boy, but he wasn't there ultimately. And the reason I'm hearing is actually pretty relatable. It's because the wedding was on a Friday and he was in school. So, I mean, I guess good for William and Kate for being like, no, you got to go to school. You can't be the page boy in the British High Society wedding of the year. You got to go to school at Lambrook, just like everybody else. So that's fair. There were a couple of hiccups at the wedding, as there is at every wedding, mostly strong gusts of wind, which really, kind of tripped the bride up for a minute, but she looked beautiful. We'll talk about her in a second. And then there were some protesters from Just Stop Oil, but from what I saw, the occasion just looked absolutely beautiful.
Oh my goodness, I saw some video and yes, it was beautiful. But some of the footage of that wind. So the bride was standing outside of the church in one video I saw, and the photographer was trying to get a picture of her. And the wind was so strong, it was blowing her veil like so tight against her face. I felt frustrated for her, and all I could think about was, oh man, I hope she's not wearing lip gloss
I
because we
know,
all know
right?
how much of a pain that would be.
Oh, I know. The win. So it makes me think actually of Charles and Camilla's wedding in 2005. I don't know if anyone will remember this, but Camilla was wearing this feathered headpiece, and she walked out of the guild hall with Charles, and this wind was just the same as at Olivia Henson's wedding. And that feathered headpiece, like Camilla was struggling with it so much, but I mean, just you can't help things like that. But I mean, Olivia looked beautiful. She arrived in a vintage Bentley driven by her father, Rupert, and she wore a wedding dress and veil, which we'll talk about in a second, by Emma Victoria Payne, who is a British designer that admittedly I've never heard of, but this dress I think is beautiful. So the gown was ivory silk, crepe satin, and silk organza with a scalloped edge neckline and a 3-foot train, which I think I read was detachable, which is cool. cool. There was embroidered detailing that was also featured on her veil, and it was hand drawn by the designer. And it incorporated, I think this, I love stuff like this. Like I live for stuff like this. It incorporated motifs that were on Olivia's great great grandmother's veil from around 1880. I
Wow.
love details like that. I know you do too. And so also on her veil were Olivia's initials and the wedding date. So her dress had a keyhole back. I actually loved that. And Olivia wore a tiara, specifically the Fabergé myrtle leaf tiara, which is the Grosvenor bride's tiara. It's been in Hugh's family since 1906. And her bouquet featured flowers picked in the gardens of Eaton Hall, which is the Grosvenor's family estate. It included meadow grass, ox-eye daisies, iris, rose, clematis, mock orange, scabious, sweet pea, astrantia. Now we're officially exiting my capacity to pronounce flowers. Martagon lily and love in a mist, which is like the coolest flower name ever that I've never heard of. So there were about 400 guests in attendance. And if you noticed, Olivia used her shoes as her something blue. Did you see that?
I did. Yeah. So they were, it's like the blue velvet block heels. They were by Sylvia Lago, I saw, and they had a little blue velvet bow on the toe. I thought they were really cute.
Yeah, and I feel like if I'm not mistaken, I think the bridesmaids also had blue shoes too, but I probably need to fact check myself on that. But I also want to talk about Eugenie's fashion for the day. I liked this. So Eugenie wore a long sleeved olive green dress with a pleated skirt. She also wore a cream pillbox hat with netting. So we'll get into the fashion again in just a second. But following the wedding, guests were invited to a reception at nearby Eaton Hall, which I just mentioned, on the Grosvenor's 11,000-acre estate. And then a second smaller reception was held for close family and friends on Saturday, the next day. So the Times called the wedding the most royal, non-royal wedding of the year, and the Daily Mail took it so far to call it the society wedding of the decade. So that's pretty big,
Wow.
big praise. So let's talk about the bride and groom. We're probably spending too much time on this, but you know what? We're going to milk this because we're not going to have a wedding for a while. So just oblige. But they met through mutual friends in October 2021 and announced their engagement in April 2023. So, like Kate, actually, and Eugenie as well, for that matter, Olivia attended Marlborough College, which is forever the hardest word for me to
You
say. And
said it
I
right.
did, and I didn't even stutter on it. That I'm really proud of myself because I cannot pronounce that word for whatever reason. So I hope George chooses Eaton for that reason, obviously. But anyway, she graduated, Olivia graduated with a degree in Hispanic Studies and Italian, which is cool, from Trinity College in Dublin. She's now a senior account manager for the ethical food company Balazoo, although I think she's probably not, like I think she's probably not doing that anymore, but I'm not totally sure, so don't quote me on that. Hugh inherited the Grosvenor's family net worth and the Duke of Westminster title. This is really sad after the unexpected death of his father from a heart attack in 2016, and his father was just 64 years old. So the family is very, very rich. We'll just put it that way. They're worth an estimated $12.8 billion. That's with the B. So maybe not surprising, respect this. The couple had a strict no gifts policy at the wedding. So Olivia's 31, Hugh is 33, and Hugh is the richest person under 35 in the UK. He's also the 14th wealthiest overall. And he studied, did not know that this degree was offered, countryside management at Newcastle University. And his family, a lot of their money is through real estate, and their real estate portfolio includes 300 acres across the London neighborhoods Mayfair and Belgravia. He's often described as owning half of London. So the family also owns buildings in more than 40 cities worldwide. So he's the chair of the Grosvenor Group as well as the chair of the Westminster Foundation, which the family uses to disperse their charitable donations.
Well, I was going to mention her job as an account manager, and, was wondering now that she's married to the wealthiest man under 40 in the UK, if she would keep that job. And have to ask, Rachel, would you?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I would have to like I mean I look. I always want to work somehow. Like I would hope that even if I were a billionaire, I would still, but I'm a writer, so I can do that in small doses. You know what I mean? Like I can do a one-off here or there. I don't know. I don't know if she's gonna keep her job, but I probably would not, unless I was just incredibly passionate about the work, which she might be. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about what she does there or if there's an opportunity for her to do something like that that she's passionate about in a limited capacity. But when you have money like that, the world is really your oyster as far as what you want
Oh
to do with
yeah.
it, what kind of impact you want to make.
Yeah, I mean, I really like to be honest with you, I didn't know anything about this couple until the last couple of weeks in the lead up to this wedding, but I would bet if I were a betting woman, I would bet that she would turn her interest towards like the Grosvenor Charitable Foundation, the Westminster Foundation, and
Mm,
do some work there.
that would
She's
be really cool.
yeah, I would that's my prediction, but I don't know much about Olivia, although she is beautiful. So I will tell you that they are moving. So they're moving to Cheshire after their wedding day, which is where the Grosvenor family ancestral home is. And so now they are the official Duke and Duchess of Westminster. So we have a Duchess. So I've dropped some
Exciting.
pictures in here of the bride and of Eugenie. I really love, I'm a big veil person, and her veil was stunning. I love Olivia's look. I also love Eugenie's look. So any thoughts on these two women?
Yeah, I think the wedding gown is absolutely beautiful. As you said, the detailing on the veil is so stunning and just, I mean, you could just look at it, for so long. There's just a lot there. And flowers are gorgeous. I mean, I really don't see a miss here. I noticed the groom, so he's got a pink tie on and it's got this little like tuck at the top. And I don't know much about I don't know, like the posh way to tie a tie, but I assume that there's like some special design there because it's a little bit unusual. Did you notice
I'm watching you zoom in on the picture live and in living color right here as we look in our Google Doc that we look at pictures in. Yeah, that does look a little funky, doesn't it? I didn't notice that, but you're right. I don't know. But I mean, it's a beautiful couple, and I can't, I mean, I love wedding dresses with sleeves. Like that's I'm so glad that Kate really brought that back in fashion because
that?
it's I love, and you can't, in the picture we have in here, you can't see Olivia's keyhole back, but I really liked that detail. And yeah, everything just looked absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I like the color of Eugenie's dress. It's a nice like what maybe like a sage green
Like an
color.
olive green. Yeah.
I also thought I think it was the reception dress she wore was really fun. It was
Yeah,
like a black
she's got some
pretty dress.
toned legs, Jessica. She looks like, I mean, did you see her calves?
Yeah.
I don't like to comment on women's bodies, but she's looking fit and she looks great.
Yeah, I noticed as well. Yeah, it was a great look.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Saturday, we've got Trooping the Color coming up this next Saturday. So, listeners, make sure you don't miss that event, and we'll talk about that on the next episode. But we did also, this last week, we had confirmation that the Princess of Wales would not attend the Colonel's Review, which was this past Saturday. So, as a really quick reminder, Catherine is the Colonel of the Irish Guards, and the Colonel's Review is a preparatory event that the Irish Guards hold ahead of Trooping the Color every year. So normally the colonel is expected to attend, but Catherine did send a letter in her absence, and she wrote in her letter, I'm going to quote part of that here. She said, "Being your colonel remains a great honor, and I'm very sorry that I'm unable to take the salute at this year's colonel review. Please pass my apologies to the whole regiment. However, I do hope that I'm able to represent you all again once again very soon. Please send my very best wishes and good luck to all involved." And then she signed the letter, Colonel Catherine.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, I do too. I saw the video of the letter being read, and I have to comment, whoever was in charge of that footage did a fabulous job at sneaking in a little shot of the Irish Wolfhound in attendance at the event. So that
That
was
dog shows up pretty frequently, and that's a cute dog.
It made my day. He's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
But while we are on the Princess of Wales, I did want to mention, we're kind of starting to see some of this online chatter resurface around, where she's been and what are her plans for coming back and being more public facing. And I just wanted to take this moment as a reminder for people that you really can't believe all of these stories that you read in the celebrity gossip columns or the news outlets, especially those outlets that are coming from outside of the UK or those with a reputation for misreporting. So, some of these outlets were saying she doesn't have any plans to come back in the same capacity, or, she may not come back this year. And we really don't know that. I think only she and William know her plans for the rest of the year and beyond. So I think the best we can do for getting credible information is to listen to what they're telling us, because they are giving us information. It may not be in the form of a video on social media, but we had William this last week greeting the public saying she's getting better. We had Catherine herself writing a letter to the Irish Guards saying, "I hope I'll be able to represent you all once again very soon." And so I feel like that is the update that people are looking for if they'll just listen for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, she she wouldn't tell us that she's hopeful she'll be representing them again soon if she didn't actually plan to do so. So, and that's just my little comment there is I think the public needs to do a better job of listening to these little cues that they give us. Like she's making herself present, maybe not putting a video out there directly, but writing letters and us hearing that's a message from her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Speaking of little cues that William gives away, did you remember the little snippet he gave about Charlotte and how she didn't want to go to school because she had exams, which I found like so relatable. I really love it. We'll talk about a quip he gave about Louis in a minute, but I just really love it when he sneaks in anecdotes about the kids and now Kate too. Okay, well, from talking about a really big, grandiose wedding to unfortunately, this news kind of honestly, it shocked me. Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, who we had on the show a couple months ago, he's getting a divorce. I mean, not like Charles and I are like talking about his marriage every day on the phone, but like I didn't see this coming. So it's news we obviously hate to hear. We would hate to hear this anyway, but especially since we just had him as a guest on the show and found him very, very lovely. So we don't have to tell you listeners that Charles Spencer is the younger brother of Princess Diana. It was announced this week that it was announced by him, so it's not tabloid stuff. Like he actually came out and said it. He is getting a divorce from his wife of 13 years, Karen, who is the founder and CEO of Whole Child International. So the couple married. Actually, their wedding anniversary is on Tuesday, June 18th, 2011 is their anniversary. They share a daughter, Lady Charlotte Diana, who is 12. So Karen also has two older daughters from her previous marriage, and then Charles has four children with his first wife, Victoria, including Lady Kitty, Lady Amelia, Lady Eliza Spencer. We talk about them on the show sometimes. And then he also has two children with his second wife, Caroline. So Charles told the Mail on Sunday of his divorce, "It's immensely sad. I just want to devote myself to all my children and to my grandchildren, and I wish Karen every happiness in the future." We've heard some rumors about that he's already moved on. I don't feel like addressing that because I just don't. But I would prefer to focus on what he said. So the Mail on Sunday reported that, and this is super sad, that his marriage ended as he was writing his memoir, A Very Private School. Which, if you want to hear about that, you can listen to our episode on that from a couple months ago. You can tell from our conversation with him, it's an extraordinarily tough and personal subject. And the Earl and Countess of Spencer announced their decision to divorce to the staff at Althorpe House, which is the Spencer family ancestral home, back in April. And I want to hear what you think about this, but I actually just heard that the police launched an investigation into Charles Spencer's former school, Madewell, for quote unquote non-recent sexual abuse, which we spoke to him about on the show. And it's about time is all I can say about that. That happened in the 1970s. So anyway, this is the divorce news is really sad news. And I'm wondering if you had anything to add or any take on it.
No, I mean, like you, I was caught off guard by this. I was surprised to hear of that. And, I can just imagine it's probably been a really emotional, challenging year for him going through the process of writing his memoir. I can imagine was probably extremely difficult. And, the conversation we had with him and reading that. And then also, having these challenges on the other side of things and, with his marriage. So, just thoughts and prayers go out to them as they
Hmm.
go through that. And, I hate it. I hate to hear a story like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found this interesting. There's really, I mean, it's just a point of fact, but Charles Spencer is apparently using the same divorce lawyer that the then Prince Charles Spencer, there's a lot of Charles is happening here, but that Charles Spencer's ex-brother-in-law, so the Prince Charles used when he was divorcing Diana in 1996. So this lawyer is named Fiona Shackleton. She has been hired by Earl Spencer. She also, interesting, apparently is just representing all the high society and royal men in their divorces because she also represented Prince Andrew in his 1996 divorce from Sarah Ferguson. So
Wow.
yeah, I know. I found that interesting. Total non sequitur. This just came out today, Tuesday, but did you see the king's new and very red portrait got vandalized by animal rights protesters? I mean, this is not funny.
I
I
did
don't.
not see
Oh
that.
my God. It's like go look it up. It's like Wallace and Gromit. It's not funny, but like it's just it I don't know how to explain it. It just is. So I don't really have much to say about that other than it happened, but that just happened. So anyway, well, we're getting close to closing the royal rundown, and so that was really sad news about the Charles Spencer divorce, but I want to talk about God bless Prince Louis, right? Always swooping in and making everything a little bit more lighthearted. So he had some, did you hear about this story that he had some pretty funny advice for England's national football team?
Tell us
So
about it.
yes. So William gave some good advice to the England national football team on Monday, and he shared some witty advice from Louis as well, some hard-earned 6-year-old wisdom. Let me tell you, some wise words. So we probably don't have to tell you listeners that William is the president of the Football Association or the FA. He's also a massive football fan, and that is soccer to us here in the US. So he went to speak to the England national team before they left for Germany to play in the 2024 European Football Championship, which is otherwise known as Euro 2024. And he gave a really inspiring pep talk. Honestly, if this whole king thing doesn't work out for William, he could be a motivational speaker. It was pretty inspiring. But he also shared some advice from Louis. So William said that he was on the school run with George, Charlotte, and Louis. He asked the kids when he was taking them to Lambrook on Monday morning, what were some words of wisdom or some advice that they had for the football team. And this is this is what William said. He said the best bit of advice I got was to eat, this is from Louis, to eat twice the amount you would normally eat. Says Louis. And then this is William speaking. And now I have visions of all of you running around with massive tummies and getting stitches on the pitch. And then he, I know, right? And then he added, I think take my youngest advice with a pinch of salt. So then I thought England's team captain, Harry Kane, he had a witty response of his own to Louis. He quipped to William, I don't think our nutritionists will be happy with that advice. So sorry, Louis, I don't think that the England national team is going to be taking your advice. But that Euro 2024 kicks off on Friday. So if you're into football or soccer, if you're American, check that out and go England.
Well, thank you, Louis, for the humor of the episode.
Always, Louis. God bless you, Louis. Never change.
Well, Rachel, let's talk royal residences and lease agreements, shall we?
There's always some drama going on in with Windsor lease agreements with the royal family. So what do we
Yeah.
have today?
So specifically, we're going to talk about Royal Lodge, which is the home of Prince Andrew and Fergie, at least for now. Okay, so a while back, there was speculation that King Charles might have been considering relocating Prince Andrew and Fergie to another royal property, like possibly Frogmore Cottage. And we know that was renovated not too long ago and is sitting vacant. Then I feel like things kind of quieted down for a while and we really didn't hear much.
Yeah, I
And
thought this story was dead, but it's
yeah,
not.
it was kind of unclear if those plans would come to fruition, but it looks like now King Charles is revisiting his plans, and the Duke and Duchess of York could potentially be forced to move out of Royal Lodge and downsize to a smaller royal property. Now, with anything, this is not as simple as it sounds. There are tons of complications and layers to this, including the fact that Prince Andrew has a 75-year lease on Royal Lodge that is not due to expire for many, many more years. And he is not on board with the idea of moving out. So apparently he has no plans to go unless I suppose he's forced. On the other hand, the annual cost of maintenance for the property is like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it is being reported that he's not believed to be in a financial position to really be able to afford, the upkeep to preserve the home like it should. So I feel like, maybe that could be grounds for King Charles to void the lease. I'm not really sure how that works, but I did see photos online of Royal Lodge and they showed a lot of wear and tear. You could see paint chipping on the exterior. So I do think in a property like this, it is important to make sure that it's maintained and preserved. If the lease requires the tenant to pay for that kind of upkeep in order to keep it valid, Prince Andrew might not have much of a case for staying at Royal Lodge, but I mean, it's still to be determined, but that's kind of what's in the news right now as far as, future plans for him and Fergie. And I know, Fergie's living there too. And I don't know. I don't know how this is how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I've heard that he very much does not want to leave, but I have seen some exterior, obviously not interior, but exterior photos of Royal Lodge. And it does look, I mean, it's not in total disrepair, it's not in shambles, but it definitely needs some work. And so um I I don't know what I just know that if Andrew has his way, he's not moving. So
Well, we'll wait and see about that.
yeah, still unfolding story. This is not, like you said, it's not the first time this has come up. I thought we moved on from this, but I guess it's bubbling back up again, probably due to the disrepair. So we will
Mhm.
keep our eye on that. But you want to move into royals around the world? Because I know that we've got some European
Yeah,
royals in the US. I'll let you tell us about that, but we got a lot to talk about. So let's start in Jordan, shall we? So we have an exciting anniversary for King Abdullah of Jordan. He has a silver jubilee this week, which is always exciting. I don't, we've said this on the show before. I don't think we're probably going to get a silver jubilee from Charles unless he just really has an like lives to nearly 100 years old, which prayerfully he does. But so we're going to celebrate King Abdullah of Jordan's Silver Jubilee. Congratulations for marking 25 years on the throne. So on Sunday, June 9th, so a couple days ago, this milestone was celebrated with a military parade and a fly past that was attended by about 9,000 people. So that's exciting and impressive. And we saw Princess Rajwa, who was pregnant. She was wearing red again, looking beautiful. So here's to many more years of King Abdullah's reign.
definitely. Well, let's talk about our Swedish royals real quick. So first up, Princess Madeleine of Sweden celebrated her 42nd birthday on June 10th, and the Swedish royal family did share a gorgeous family portrait of her, her husband, and their three children. And I know you can see the picture in here, so I'm going to spoil it, but can you guess what color Madeleine and her daughters were wearing?
Well, I pray it's ice blue like every other global royal this year.
Yeah, so all three were in ice blue, and all three of their dresses were by self-portrait. I love these dresses. I think
Self
they're
portrait
gorgeous.
is a great line, by the way.
It is. So the caption actually mentioned their move back to Sweden, which, oh my goodness, this is a long time coming. I can't even remember how long it's been since we first reported that they
It's
would
been
be
a
moving
couple
Florida
years.
back home. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while. So, and interestingly enough, the quote that the royal family said in the caption said, Princess Madeline and family are now moving home to Sweden after several years as foreigners. Princess and Mr. Christopher O'Neill have decided that the family should, for now, reside in Stockholm. So notice how that was a little cryptic. There's still no mention of a move date. We don't really know when that's going to happen. So the mystery continues. I'm wondering, do you think it will be before the end of summer?
I I may so I'm admittedly not familiar with Swedish school schedules, but I know that they have kids and that I think the reason given for why it was pushed back was because of the kids in their school. And I mean
Well,
I
they
was
were also, I think, doing some renovations on the property they were going to move in.
oh, okay. I didn't remember that. But I mean I would think that, if Sweden also starts school at roughly the same time that that other countries do, then like the UK and the US, then I think they're whenever they move, we'll be mindful of the kids' school schedules. So maybe,
Yeah.
probably, hopefully. I mean, they've been. I don't want to lose them because I live in the same state as them, albeit in a different part of the state, but Florida, because that's where they live. But I think they've been ready to do this for a while, so I'm ready for them to be where they want to be, which it sounds like is in Sweden.
Well, and hopefully that means we'll see more pictures of them at various royal events. We did get a picture of Crown Princess Victoria's children recently as well, because June 6th was Sweden's National Day.
I always love when they
And
dress up like this.
yeah, the children were in, so it's Princess Estelle and Prince Oscar, and Princess Estelle was in this traditional folk dress. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll describe the picture. So she's got the large white collar, it's got a blue bodice with embroidered flowers, and this long flowing yellow skirt. And I just love these traditional outfits, seeing them. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I love the traditional outfit. It's just very, very proud cultural moment.
All right. So we're going to wrap up our chat about the Swedish royals, and we're going to talk about the Dutch royals because we've got some really, really fun travel news that I personally have been really excited to talk about all week long because I have a personal connection to this. So King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands are in the USA this week. Specifically, they're in Georgia and New York. So they arrived in Atlanta, Georgia on Sunday, and I am a Georgia native. It is
Yes, you
my
are.
home state. And I even lived in Atlanta for a very brief period during grad school. I interned at the state capitol building, so I know my way around the city and the state capitol. And it was fun to see pictures come out from this event. I shared some on our Instagram account, but on Monday, they visited the state capitol building and they met the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, and the Dutch CEO delegation, which is a group of CEOs of Dutch companies. And if you're wondering the reason for the visit, they are there highlighting the strong economic ties between the two countries, the US and the Netherlands. And here's a fun fact. Georgia is the ninth trading partner of the Netherlands and apparently continuing to grow. So on Monday, they also laid a wreath at the grave of Martin Luther King Jr., and they met the mayor of Atlanta at the Beltline. If you are not familiar with the Beltline, it's basically this big trail in the city. So you can go walk and ride a bike on it. It's really popular and it connects several different neighborhoods throughout the city. So while they were there, they learned about healthy living and affordable housing. And then they took a little field trip to visit a very well-known hip hop studio called Patchwork Recording Studios.
I love
And it's
that.
actually, yeah, where some pretty big artists have recorded albums. I think Beyonce and Madonna have both recorded albums there. So pretty iconic place in hip hop. They also visited the CDC, and that's the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and they learned about health issues related to climate change. So finally, they did a tour of New Cold, which is a Dutch-owned cold storage warehouse. So they kind of wrapped up that tour on Monday. And then today, this one I was super excited about. They
Me
went to
too.
Savannah, Georgia. And
Savannah
this
is
is
one of my favorite cities in the world. I love Savannah.
It is another city that I have visited many, many, many times. It is so beautiful. They did share, and this is on our Instagram feed. I had to put it out there. So if you haven't seen it, there's a quite romantic picture of them strolling arm in arm in the streets. And you can see the Spanish moss hanging over the trees in the background. And it's just, yeah, it's a beautiful city. So while there, they visited the port of Savannah, which is the fastest growing port in North America. They met the mayor of Savannah and they visited SCAD, which is a really awesome school. If you're not familiar, it stands for the Savannah College of Art and Design. So really, really fun. Please go check that picture out. And I did ask on Instagram who of our listeners have been to Savannah. So if you haven't taken that poll, hopefully it's still up when this episode goes live. You can go take that. All right. So tomorrow on Wednesday, when this podcast goes live, they're going to be in New York. They'll start out in Albany, which is the state capital. They're going to meet with a Dutch business delegation and they'll visit a tech hub called NY Creates. And then tomorrow evening, they've got a reception with the New York governor at the governor's mansion. where King Willem-Alexander is scheduled to give a short speech. Then Thursday, they will head to the Big Apple, aka New York City, and they'll start with a visit to Brooklyn, where they're going to learn about urban challenges. They're going to see an incubator space for tech startups, and then they're going to head over to the New York Historical Society, where they're going to learn about 400 years of Dutch and New York history. And here's a fun little fact. They're going to actually go to the High Line, which is kind of like Atlanta's Beltline. I have actually also walked the High Line a few times in New York, and I do recommend it if you're visiting. So the way that I like to do it, the way I've done it both times, go on a chilly morning, get a really great cup of coffee, and just kind of stroll. It's a nice walk.
Hmm.
All right. So they're going to close out that visit at Hudson Yards at the Spiral Building for a reception with local politicians. And King Willem-Alexander will also give a speech there. And I was just thinking about this. This agenda is jam-packed. So they are coming just off of the D-Day event in France. They're doing this full schedule, like 4 days in the US. I feel like when they get back to their hotel room in the evening, they're probably crashing, because think
Yes.
about, not only is it a full agenda, but the jet lag that comes with that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we hear all the time about dignitaries visiting New York City, and Atlanta is a huge city as well. But I loved seeing them in Savannah, because Savannah is a hidden gem. I mean, it's not a small town, but it's not New York City. And I loved the photo you shared of them strolling in Savannah. It was beautiful. I love Savannah. I have a just really close personal tie with that city. And just great to have them in the States, and they look great, and I bet they're totally exhausted behind the scenes. They have to be.
Well, I also loved how there was an American flag waving in the background
I
of
did
them.
see that. Yes, but I mean, well, I think Maxima at one point lived in New York City, so that might be a little bit of a homecoming for her. But it's just fun to see cities that you don't normally see, right? Like Savannah, that doesn't normally end up on an agenda for a visiting royal. So I loved that.
Yep. Well, before they left for this trip, they did actually schedule some photo sessions. So they have truly been busy, but they released some new family portraits. There were several that I saw online. I think some may have been some outtakes or something, but there was one with the whole family. So the king and queen, all three of their daughters, and their cute little dog. There was also one of just the king and queen. There was another one of just the king and Princess Katerina Amalia, who we know is the future queen of the Netherlands. And then I did see some others. I saw one with all the women of the family. And there was another one I put in our notes here for you, Rachel. Katerina Amalia is holding the family dog, and you can see his little pink tongue licking her nose. So really, really
How
cute
chic is
photo.
Katerina Amalia with her coat or with her jacket draped over her shoulders? Very fashion forward. And that dog is so cute.
Yes, yes, they were great pictures. And that
Gorgeous family.
wraps up our royal rundown. Or not
Yes.
our royal rundown, our royals around the world.
Well,
Man.
and our royal rundown too. It wraps up the whole dang episode. How about that? So, June will continue to be a very busy month. I know we have, obviously, as Jessica said, Trooping the Color on Saturday. We have Royal Ascot starting. We have the Garter service. We also, our next episode in a week is going to be on June 19th, which is Edward and Sophie's 25th wedding anniversary. So that's exciting. So, so much to talk about. June is always, as August is the slow month in the royal world, June is the crazy month. So keep hanging out with us on Instagram, where Jessica's posting awesome content. I really did like that Savannah picture. And just take our polls, engage with us. We are totally here to chat with all of you, and that is, of course, at Podcast Royal on Instagram. And if you have questions or thoughts to share, you can always DM us there or send us an email at hellopodcastroyal@gmail.com. And that is episode 144 of Podcast Royal. I hope you all have a great week, and we'll chat with you next week. Bye.
Bye.